the pilots had no idea. The super strange story of Air France Flight 011. The routine flight. It was a clear evening at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris when Air France Flight 011 was preparing for takeoff. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner was bound for New York, carrying 215 passengers and 10 crew members. Captain Jean-Luc Moreau, a seasoned pilot with over 25 years of experience, was at the controls, assisted by First Officer Sophie Dubois, an equally competent aviator. Everything about the flight seemed routine. The pre-flight checks were completed without issue, and air traffic control cleared them for takeoff. The engines roared, and the aircraft lifted off the runway, smoothly climbing into the sky. Passengers settled in, some watching movies, others chatting or dozing off. But none of them, not even the pilots, had any idea what awaited them. The first sign of trouble. About 2 hours into the flight, as they cruised at 38,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean, a strange beeping sound filled the cockpit. Captain Moreau frowned and glanced at the instrument panel. It was a minor system warning, nothing urgent. He dismissed it, assuming it was just a sensor glitch. However, First Officer Dubois noticed something strange on the navigation screen. The aircraft's GPS momentarily showed a completely different location, somewhere over the Amazon rainforest, thousands of miles away. But within seconds, it corrected itself. "That was odd," Dubois said, exchanging a glance with Moreau. "Probably just a temporary GPS error," Moreau replied. "Let's keep an eye on it." They did not know that this was only the beginning. The vanishing passengers. At the same time, in the passenger cabin, a flight attendant named Claire was making her rounds. She stopped at row 12 to check on an elderly couple, but when she looked at their seats, she gasped. The seats were empty. Claire blinked, confused. She had just served them drinks not 5 minutes ago. She looked around, expecting to see them walking toward the restroom, but there was no sign of them. She turned to another passenger, a businessman working on his laptop. "Excuse me, sir. Did you see where the elderly couple went?" The man looked up, puzzled. "What couple?" Claire's heart skipped a beat. Was she imagining things? She hurried to the intercom and whispered to her colleague, "Did you see an elderly couple in row 12? Her colleague frowned. "Row 12? That row has been empty since takeoff." Claire felt a chill run down her spine. Something was very, very wrong. The impossible weather. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the pilots were dealing with another anomaly. The radar showed a massive storm ahead, a storm that shouldn't be there. "This wasn't in the forecast," Moreau muttered, adjusting the controls. "And it's moving too fast." Dubois studied the instruments. "Captain, our altitude is fluctuating, but I'm not making any adjustments." Moreau tightened his grip on the controls. "I'm taking manual control." But as soon as he did, the turbulence worsened. The aircraft jolted violently, and an eerie static sound filled the cockpit. Then suddenly everything went still. The storm vanished. The sky outside was clear again. But when they looked at their instruments, they froze. The plane's altitude read 0 feet. The ghostly transmission. Before they could react, a strange voice crackled through the radio. "Air France Flight 011, you should not be here." Moreau and Dubois exchanged alarmed looks. "Who is this?" Moreau demanded. "Identify yourself." The voice did not respond. Instead, a distorted transmission came through. "Mayday. Mayday. Air France Flight 011, we are lost, we are trapped." Dubois' hands trembled as she recognized the distress call's frequency. "Captain, this is coming from our own aircraft." Moreau's eyes widened in shock. "That's impossible." Then, the transmission ended abruptly, and the aircraft's instruments reset as if nothing had happened. The moral choice. Back in the passenger cabin, Claire noticed something even stranger. The missing elderly couple was suddenly back in their seats, as if they had never disappeared. Confused but relieved, she approached them. "Sir, ma'am, are you okay?" The elderly man looked at her with tired eyes. "We never left, dear." She stepped back, her mind racing. What was happening to this flight? At that moment, Captain Moreau made a critical decision. "Sophie, we need to turn back to Paris." Something is seriously wrong. Du Bois hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. They radioed air traffic control, but the response chilled them to the bone. Air France Flight 011. You were reported missing 5 years ago. The return. Passengers gasped as the announcement was made. How could they have been gone for 5 years? For them, it had only been a few hours. As they turned the plane around, the strange anomalies continued. The aircraft's navigation system flickered, showing bizarre locations. The Bermuda Triangle, Antarctica, even deep space. Finally, as they neared Europe, everything stabilized. The instruments returned to normal, the missing time was unaccounted for, and the storm never appeared again. They landed safely in Paris, but no one could explain what had happened. The world was stunned. Scientists, investigators, and even paranormal experts tried to understand the mystery of Flight 011. The passengers and crew had no memory of missing 5 years, yet records showed that their flight had vanished from radar and was presumed lost. Some believed it was a glitch in time, others thought it was divine intervention, and some called it a warning about forces beyond human understanding. But the passengers and crew learned an important lesson: time is precious, and life is unpredictable. Captain Moreau later said in an interview, "We take so much for granted, our time, our loved ones, our ordinary days. But after Flight 011, I understand now. Every moment is a gift." And so, the mystery of Air France Flight 011 remained unsolved, but its message was clear: live each day as if it could vanish into the unknown.